Right, thanks for joining us. So the session, obviously there's a few more people coming. We might just sort of wait a few moments, but what we'll do is we'll just basically explain a bit of background as to why we're here and what we hope to achieve as a result of this. So for those who are in attendance, welcome. For those who will be joining, we'll obviously, as I mentioned, we won't wait, but we'll just give you a bit of background before we start. So for us at Symtrax, we've noticed, because of our extensive client base across Europe, that supply chain management, or at least document management within the supply chain industries, is becoming more and more critical for a lot of organizations out there. So in relation to sort of export documents, we created quite a long list of export document processes, varying from sort of security elements to flexibility elements to making things sort of more digital, making your supply chain more digital, and everything that goes along with that. So please feel free. What we'll do is we'll send you links to that as well, and they'll be at the end of the session how you can find a bit more out about that. So in relation to this webinar, what we're hoping to cover off is really important, and there's a sort of far-reaching position here for not just yourselves but ourselves, and working together in partnership here. So essentially, for a lot of organizations out there, export documents haven't really changed that much, and there's talk of change happening in the not too distant future. So January 1st, Europe are changing, as it were, their import requirements, or our export in the UK, our export document requirements. And what does that mean for yourselves, a company like yourself? So, we thank you for joining. Obviously, this session is focused on fisheries, but really, when it comes down to it, no matter what industry you're in, you're exporting to the continent, the export documents will change. And something that we've got a lot of history on is around the billing documents. So the invoicing and procurement elements into Europe and around Europe have changed drastically over the last 2 or 3 years. So we can update you on that as well. So specifically relating to the fisheries markets, as we all know from the newspapers and articles, I don't want to focus too heavily on this, but essentially it's unfortunately become quite politicalized, and the topics around this are very combustible, let's say. So for us as an organization, we clearly operate in both elements. We're obviously a global organization, but something which is of interest to ourselves is essentially the exchange between the UK government and the EU, the European Commission, and what the documents that flow around that. Now, clearly, from a fishing perspective, there are clearly 4 main documents that are going to happen, are going to be in place by January 1st, and the 4th, which is new, isn't likely to be known until, I guess, a few weeks or days beforehand. So there's going to be a lot of change that's going to happen over the next sort of month, or at least 6 months. So that as the government are talking about, is a transition, and that's not going to go away anytime soon. So in relation to yes, so as you're probably all aware, there's that 3-step statement from the government: check, change, and go. So for us, working together in partnership, clearly these are the 3 main areas we want to focus on together. It's clearly, from an ITC perspective, 70% of UK seafood exports go to EU. Now, obviously, that can change. We obviously have wider markets, as we're all aware of, including Asia and the rest of the world, including Norway. So there's that to consider. So there's just checking what's currently the state of play. Clearly, this market is important to both parties, and the change element is really around the document management space. So the digital document change is going to impact all of us. So we have a solution in place to address that and help you manage that change, which is essentially from the government's perspective, the go strategy will be PIPL moving forward. There's a few steps towards that as far as this change process is happening sort of over the next 12 months or so, something they haven't really outlined too clearly. But the end goal is to make sure that PIPL is well and truly in the middle of our engagement with Europe, and that will be the position moving forward. So with us, with our long history in these areas of digital document management and being an access point PIPL provider, we can help you to coin the phrase from the British government, to check, change and go, and we can help with that. So clearly it's a given that the UK are leaving 1st of January 2021, but what happens next for yourself? So for us, there's 3 key elements which are important to, I guess, any document change, but especially in this sort of volatile area within the market, this needs to be focused on. So adapting the process to meet new laws. At the moment, we don't even know what that is, but clearly we know that that's going to be a huge change within the market. And then what comes off the back of that is clearly step 2, which is making those documents and their workflows around that as smooth as possible. And then clearly what everybody's looking at is making sure those documents are exchanged quickly and as cost effectively as possible. So for us at Symtrax, we have a clear focus on this, which is essentially helping organizations go digital and more digital than they've been before because of market demands. Going faster, which basically means allowing organizations to focus on their workflows as much as possible. And in aid of making your organization as cost effective as possible, the parallel to that is clearly something that needs to happen in tandem, is you need to automate as much of your organizations as possible, as intelligently as possible as well, which is something we've worked with a lot of organizations across Europe and around the world on over the last 30 years. So for us, Symtrax, we've clearly focused, as I mentioned, on the document management space for a number of years and helping organizations digitalize their infrastructure from an IT and operational perspective. So what does document reporting mean to someone like yourselves? Clearly for us, we have a lot of clients that want to make sure that this exchange is as secure and transparent as possible, to make sure that sort of workflows are as clear and understandable as possible for everybody involved. And the speed clearly has to be there, otherwise it's not going to be too efficient. And what we've noticed over the last few years is clearly people are starting to recognize that delayed payments are having a serious impact across their organization. And what that basically comes down to is allowing your organization, your clients, relationships and partners and suppliers and so on to be as responsive as possible and as efficient as possible with all the exchanges that need to happen. So yes, so from a smart fisheries perspective, to deal with the digital document change that's coming in very quickly. Clearly, historically, there's been a lot of manual involvement here, but for us, we'd like to offer our assurances in this area because we work with a lot of European organizations, whether that be business entities, whether it be government entities and such like, which have implemented this on a far wider scale, and we've helped them do that, guaranteeing security, transparency, and generated exceptional speed and safety across your organization, reduce late payments and any port delays, whatever that might be for yourself, and allowing you and your organization, your overall supply chain into partners, customers and suppliers to be as responsive and as efficient as possible throughout your organization. So for us at Symtrax, clearly we like to focus on and we've successfully focused on the overall supply chain, not just of documents, but of digital documents, whether that be, as I mentioned before, into Europe or around the world. But for us right now, we very much see there's going to be a sync between how we as a British business, how we can support you as a British business export into Europe, and the processes that will come out of this. So what we've worked over the last, I guess, 5 years now already across Europe is the Eprocurement government portals, which is around people. You may have heard of it, and you'll need to know about this over the coming months, because a lot of businesses across, governments across Europe have allowed this to be the common platform, let's say, or the common protocol to procure and get paid by European businesses. At the moment, it's government entities, but it's soon going to be transformed into all businesses. And there's talk over the next 2 years of moving that to not just B2G, but B2B. And clearly, as a fishery, we need to start helping you guys become smarter in making sure that you've got everything set up in place now to cope with all the changes that are coming. So at the moment, January 1st, there's a lot of digital document changes that will need to happen. There's 3 documents becoming 4. What does that mean for yourself? For us as an organization, we help companies, and including fisheries. So we've been working with princes for a number of years now in making sure that's a viable option. And clearly, princes is a large importer exporter of fish into Europe and around the world. So for us, we've recognized that this export document is clearly a requirement and a necessity across Britain. And really, when we talk about our government's push to move towards a more exporting focused economy, we need to be aware that these fisheries play an important part. For us as a nation, the relationship between Europe and the UK in a fisheries perspective is, as I've shown at the beginning, is quite a sizable chunk of our industry, which is 1.3 billion. Now, clearly, we operate across Europe and into Iceland and across, I guess, into the Far East mainly, because as we know, China, Russia, Japan are clearly main consumers of fish. So we must play a part in that. Clearly, we're aware of that. And what we allow is from a document management perspective to make that as seamless as possible. And the digital process is not restricted. As far as what I mean by that is essentially allowing your organization to be as transparent internally, externally, and across the partners as well, because we operate a multilingual document exchange. What does that mean? That means if you need to share documents, whether that be in Europe in a local language, German or French, or sort of an international language in Chinese, for example, or Japanese, we can certainly work with that. So I appreciate, that's quite a niche area, but what we hope to show out of this is the fact that we can help your fisheries become smarter in the future. So in relation to our overall platform, this is normally what happens. There's an exchange with an intermediary. In this precise example, it's to do with a fishery element where there's a captain and the boat and so on and so forth. There's an entity in between. But for us, we see that as the delivery, the delivery driver as well, or the cargo freight, or the shipment, or the boat, or whatever. And really, what we work with and what we like to exchange and play an important part of is clearly these 5 key areas which help your organization be as compliant as possible And if things need to change, we can change those as well, because it's just a workflow for us. So what I'd like to do is pass this over to Diane Charlotte to show you a bit more about what we mean by this.
Thanks. So here's what we're going to see in today's demonstration. So in concrete matter, the boat is going to send to the fishery that its fish quota is reached, and then the fishery states where the boat can deposit its fish, and then the boats approve the destination, and the catch certificate and all different mandatory documents are sent to the port, and at the end the captain can deposit its catchment. So here is what it means in terms of Compleo. So the boat notifies to the fishery that the quota is reached, and here is where Compleo comes. So the fishery states where to deposit by sending the pre-landing statement to the boat that the captain of the boat approves. So an email is going to be sent to the fishery to just tell the fishery that the boat accepted the destination, and at the same time documents are gonna, all mandatory documents are gonna merge and be sent to the port, which is gonna receive a link to approve and sign the different documents, and then at the end an email is gonna be sent to the port to tell the captain he can deposit his catchments, and another one is going to be sent to the fishery in order to archiving. So we are going to use Compleo Reviewer, WebSign, and in the background Compleo Layout and Supervisor. So if we start, I'm going to first release the pre-landing declaration. And now that it's released, I'm just gonna go in my Compleo console. So the document is already here, and I've taken as a variable the destination port, so that it's highlights and easier for me to see in which port I would be supposed to land. Now, as I agree with all the different information, I can sign. So you can either draw, import, or anything with your signature. You can always have the same, create a new one each time. So now that I've created it, I'm just gonna place it at a better place, at a better space. And that's it. I've reviewed my document. So if we go into the mailbox, we are going to see that the fishery received an email saying that I accepted the destination, and at the same time the port received a link in order to sign the different documents. So if I click on it, you can see here that there is the first document, but also we've merged some other ones. So here we have a prior notification, but also you can put a catch document or any mandatory documents. So we can really adapt which documents you would want, or even adapt our workflow. So do not hesitate to reach us if you want to see something specific. So now I can, as a port, sign the document. So as on reviewer, I can decide to type draw or upload my own signature if I have one special. And now that I signed the document, I sent it back to the system. So if we go back to the email we use for demonstration, so we can see that one is sent to the boat, and so the captain can know that he can unload his goods, and the other one is sent to the fishery with all the signed documents for archiving. So we do have an archiving solution, but we decided to not show it to you at this time because it wasn't the point of this demonstration. But if you're interested, do not hesitate to reach us, and we can arrange a demonstration especially for you if you want. So thanks, and over to you, Kevin.
So thanks very much, Dan Charlotte. I hope you've taken quite a bit out of this. For us as an organisation, clearly there's a number of steps that we can follow quite quickly to deliver something to yourselves within a short period of time that we're all aware of. Now, clearly, no matter where you've started, whether you've have a business system, whether you've got an IBM system or an SAP system back in the IT shop in your organisation, we can help move this across as seamlessly. And should you need to in the future, which Dan Charlotte didn't quite highlight, but I highlighted before, is if you need the billing element or procurement element to flow into Pipple, we can certainly help with that. So we can make that element as seamless as possible for yourself. So should you need to get in touch, please feel free to do that. You obviously have social feeds. Just check us out on Symtrax software, and we'll be happy to help. But please feel free to get in touch with ourselves and reach out to ourselves, whether it's technically from a tech tips on our Twitter feed or via myself on LinkedIn, and I'll share those details with you later. Thanks there. From Diane, Charlotte, and myself, we'd like to say goodbye.